you would fancy City winning most of their remaining fixtures, and I think they will. I don't think it's I don't think they'll miss out on the Champions League spots.
Hello and welcome back to the Counter Sport Football Podcast. I'm your host Darren Timson, joined for a very special podcast as they're both free today, Gabe and Declan. Guys, how you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Glad to be back.
It's good to have you both back.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, nice to mix things up a little bit. We've not seen Declan since 2024. I can't remember, Gabe, when you were last on.
I think it was the end of the January transfer window. I think that's when I made my last appearance.
Yeah, we were talking about Patrick Dorgu. I remember that now. Guys, I think we're gonna talk about the FA Cup very briefly, as you know, it took place over the weekend. And Manchester City are probably, unfortunately, favourites now. They're looking okay. Just to recap, Palace beat Fulham 3-0. Forest beat Brighton 4-3 on penalties. Villa struggled, I think, in the first half a little bit against Preston, but then just ramped it up in the second half. And then City fought back to beat Bournemouth 2-1. So that means the semi-finals are Forest versus City and Palace versus Aston Villa. But Gabe, I'll start with you. It's looking like an interesting semi-final because we know City aren't what they used to be. But do you think they're coming into a little bit of form now and maybe the semi-finals aren't as open as we were all hoping they were going to be?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, if Manchester City are in a semi-final of any competition, there's a strong chance they're going to be the favourites. It would have been a perfect world. Well, I mean, of course, we're going to say this. Would have been a perfect world if Bournemouth went through. I think everyone in the country wanted Bournemouth to go through because it would have just been such an open semi-final at this stage of the competition. But if City are in there and they do tend to hit form coming into this business end of the season, once you get into April, they do start to lock in a bit and just go on some crazy runs like we've seen Pep Guardiola teams in the past. But I mean, there are some factors this season working against them. They're obviously not where they want to be in terms of the Premier League. So I think if you're these other teams in the competition and you're looking at Man City, I don't think they'll be as nearly as afraid as they would be a season ago or a couple seasons ago. So I still think it will be a real test for Pep Guardiola's team. Even though they will be expecting to go through, they'll be expecting to go on and win the competition from this point. But I don't think it will be easy at all for them.
They've got Forest away. Probably the second hardest game they could have gotten, I reckon. I think Villa at home would have probably been very tough for City.
It's Wembley, isn't it? It's Wembley.
It is.
They're all at Wembley.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, that's well, they like to call it Etihad South. So
They took that one from Liverpool fans. See, do you think Wembley is going to suit them a bit more than it probably will Forest, though? Because when they've signed the likes of Omar Mamouche recently, and they've signed, they obviously have Haaland and they've got Foden, and they've got Doku and Savinho. They're fast. Some, apart from Foden, maybe they're quick players. They're very direct players. Do you think Forest are just going to struggle a little bit at Wembley against City?
I mean, it depends. It depends on if they decide to play the occasion or not. I think Forest this season, from a defensive standpoint, they've been one of the best in the league. The large part is down to their keeper as well, Sells, who's just been absolutely unreal this season. He proved it against Brighton as well, just how much he's developed as a keeper and just how good he has been. But from a City's perspective, this is business as usual for them. They're used to getting to this point in competitions. Like I said, they've been to Wembley countless times. You'd like to feel that the pressure is off for them, but for Forest, it's just how they deal with the pressure at this point. If they carry their form that they've had all season and just treat it as any other game, then I'd like to think they've got a very, very strong chance of going through. And they're footballers, they're professionals. I don't think they will let the pressure get to them. I think in some cases, playing at Wembley and rising to the occasion, it can actually help motivate teams more. Forest, they are a massive club.
Mm.
Back in the day, they've some of their older fans will know that like this is where they're meant to be. So I think that they really will be up for it, and I think that will be an incredibly close tie.
Yeah, I wonder if this is a similar situation to what we just saw in the EFL Cup final, to be honest, where, Newcastle took on Liverpool, and you could see Newcastle were desperate for that trophy, I think is fair to say. And you've got two teams that have been without a trophy for quite a while, and we'll get on to Villa in a minute, Declan. And then you've got Palace, who I can't, off the top of my head, think that they've actually won a trophy, or not in the recent past anyway. Forest are having an incredible season. Do you think they will be as up for it as maybe Newcastle were, just so desperate to get to that final?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's a lot of similarities with Newcastle, like you said, in the League
Mm,
Cup. You can say I think with Newcastle as well, there was still that bitterness of losing out to Man United in 23.
mm,
So I think that sort of spurred Newcastle on a bit. They knew what to do this time. They knew how to deal with the pressure of Wembley. They knew how to deal with the pressure of a final a bit better. And yeah, I mean, we could say that for Forest as well, but then we've got Villa and Palace as well,
yeah,
who are all in the same situation as Forest, teams that haven't really won a major trophy in a long time. So they're going to be battling it out with those teams as well if they do get through, which I think makes this competition so good this year. That you've
yeah.
got 3 out of the 4 teams in the semi-final that no one would have really expected to go all the way, and I think it's really nice that we're going to see at least one of these teams get to the final.
Yeah, absolutely. And Declan, Gabe just brought it up there, Crystal Palace versus Villa. Palace have been on really good form in 2025, similar to how they ended last season under Glasner. Do you think, given maybe the struggles that Unai Emery has away from home, that Palace might be a tougher test than many Villa fans are hoping for? Because obviously, I think if you go by player for player, Villa have the better squad. They've probably got the better manager. But it is a semi-final, and do you think what from a Villa fan's perspective, what do you think going into the semi-final? Obviously, it's going to take place at the end of April, so early thoughts.
There's so many things going around to say. I mean, it's amazing that we got up to there kind of wise. I mean, Unai Emery is an amazing coach. Is shown what he can do with the players and everything. I mean, against Crystal Palace, we have had terrible performances, to say the least. I mean, last time we played against them, we lost 4-1 at Selhurst Park. Before that, it was a 2-all draw at Villa Park. Before that one,
Mm.
that was a 2-1 loss at the EFL Cup. And before that, that was a 5-0 loss in the last game of the season. Again, we already qualified for Champions League, so we were not really that buzzed around winning the game. But it does put into a bit of a context of a bubble. Like, yeah, I think Crystal Palace is not the team that we should really be playing at all. I was actually routing to get either Man City, Bournemouth, or Forest, because like, God bless, like God, do not put me into a like Crystal Palace game, because if not, I'll just be tense the whole game pretty much. And I think that's one of the things that all the Villa fans are going to be thinking about the same, because it's going to be like, well, I'm excited. I want to see. I know we can win. I'm not that sure about how much are we going to be winning this game. It's gonna be really tense one at the end, I think, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, there's other things going before that. Even that game, we have the pretty much the Champions League games. We are playing PSG, so that's gonna
Mm.
be a hard thing to even come, because we're gonna be focusing also on those games. It's just we cannot allow ourselves to just step back. It's like, oh well, I'll put everything in the FA Cup rather than the Champions League. It's just like, no, I'll have to put this stuff in the Champions League, Premier League, and then the FA Cup. So players are going to be either rotating or just overused at this moment probably by that game. Yeah.
From a Villa fan perspective, would you rather an FA Cup medal, winning the FA Cup, over a Champions League semi-final?
it's different. It's different things. It's stuff of dreams at the end of all. But probably I'll go with the FA Cup. I will probably go directly with the FA Cup. Yeah, because
I only
it's
asked that
definitely
question.
medal.
Yeah, because if you made it to the semi-final, you're probably facing Real Madrid.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't want to be disrespectful, but I don't see Villa winning that one, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Oh no, I don't think anyone does in reality, does he? But I mean, Unai Emery did wonders on the Villarreal. Remember that 4-3 game against Liverpool? Was it 2 seasons? No, 2 seasons, 3 seasons ago now. God, that was an amazing game. That was. But he just he had to play Bayern Munich beforehand, and he had to play Juventus, like really strong teams, and he pretty much impressed against them. So he might be doing
And you've
that.
got Marcus Rashford this time.
And we got Marcus Rashford scoring goals now. Yeah, we got Marcus Rashford scoring goals now.
Well, I was just going to come on to that. For Gabe, your loanee at Aston Villa. What have you been surprised by the form potentially? You know, I don't know how true they are, but there have been sort of murmurs or rumors potentially that Rashford's attitude in training wasn't what it used to be. Are you seeing a different Rashford now? Do you think he's being given a lease of life, and do you think that's a Rashford that can come back to Manchester United next season?
I think in terms of coming back to United, that door seems pretty close to me. I don't think we've heard any murmurings or whispers about Rashford coming back to United and getting introduced into the first team or into the squad at all. I mean, as for the attitude, I think a lot of that is just speculation, hearsay. I mean, a lot of the rumours in football are just speculation. What I would say on that is that I don't think there's ever been any reports in the 10 years that Rashford, or 9-10 years that Rashford has been involved in the first team project at United about anything to do with attitude at all. So it seems a bit strange to me that something about that would come out now. But I think sometimes just leaving Man United lifts a weight off players' shoulders. You see it with a lot of players who go out of that door and then they start thriving in someplace else. And I think it is true with Manchester United that it can become quite a toxic environment, and that's not just in the club, but that's like pressure from the fans as well. It can become quite toxic sometimes. So it's nice to see Rashford playing at Villa with a smile on his face, playing well as a bonus as well. And it's sort of I feel like we're seeing a sort of different Rashford as well. I mean, at Manchester United, we were so used to him being really forward-minded, always looking to goal, cut inside and shoot. But what's really impressed me with Rashford post-January is how much of a playmaker he's become, how well he's linking up with the other Villa players in that forward line. He seems to be always looking for a pass first rather than a shot, which is not to say that what he was doing before was bad, but it's like he's transforming to the completely opposite end of the spectrum as a winger. Before he was this pretty much an inside forward, and now he's this like wide playmaker, which like he was been getting the assists before Preston, but now he starts finally starting to add goals to that. I know there's is against Preston in the cup. One of them was a penalty, but I think just for his confidence as well, that will probably make him feel a bit better going forward. And if he can start adding goals to his game, I think he's going to look really dangerous for Villa come to the latter stages of the season. But as for a return for United, I wouldn't be optimistic about that. I'm not going to get my hopes up about that at the moment.
Is it something you want to see happen? Do you want Rashford to come back?
Oh, 100%. He's one of the players that epitomizes what Manchester United is. He came from our academy. He's one of our he's up there with like our all-time top scorers when you look at the names that he's associated with, albeit he's below them, but he's got the potential to hit those heights. And there's always going to be a sentimental part of it with me. Like Rashford broke through under Louis van Gaal in the 15-16 season, so that was when I was like a young I was like a young teenager watching Manchester United then. So he's always been a player that I've sort of grown up with, to be honest. So I'm always going to have some sentimental feeling towards Rashford, and I'd love to see him wear that red shirt again. It still feels weird to me seeing him in any other kit than Manchester United, and I know it'll feel weird for him too, because I really don't think he wanted to leave. Throughout his whole time at the club, he's lived and breathed Manchester United. He's a United fan. You can see him speak about it in interviews. He really does have a passion for the club. So in a perfect world, yeah, I would love to see him come back and wear that shirt again. But I just really don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Before we move on to the Premier League games coming up this week, and we're going to touch on the European places. You want to do a quick little prediction, maybe? Who's going to make the who's going to make the final for the FA Cup, guys? Starting with Declan.
Well, I have to go with Villa. I have to go with Villa going to the final, and you know what? I'll say Forest. I just don't want to see City. I seriously don't want to see City, because it'll be. I think as a fan of the Premier League in general, like, first of all, thank God City's not winning the title this season, and second of all, it's not a top 6 Premier League club.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, same line of thinking. I don't want to see City in the final, so I'll go Forest. And I think I'll go Palace. I think Palace have got they've got quite a good, decent history with the FA Cup as well. I mean, they made it to the final in 2016, where they lost to who was it? Oh, they lost to Man United. But yeah, Forest Palace. That's my prediction.
Interesting. That would be heartbreak for Declan, I think, especially if they lose out to PSG in the Champions League, don't get top 4. Wow, what a nightmare that would be. Yeah, I'll probably go Villa and Forest. And again, like we all said, imagine a Villa Forest final, really, or even Palace. To be honest, I'd love any of them to go with it. Just not City, please. It's just boring, isn't it? We'll get onto the Premier League then, guys. So, like I said, we're going to focus on the European places, and that probably comes down from 3rd to 10th. Although, like we said before we start recording, Palace do have a game in hand on Brentford, who are 11th, and they're on 39 points, so a win could take them to 42, and then they're only 2 points behind Bournemouth. But if you want to mention Palace as a contender, feel free. So we're probably looking at Forest, Chelsea, City, Newcastle, Brighton, Fulham, Villa, and Bournemouth. Declan, I will start with you here, because Villa are in 9th.
Yeah.
Do you think there's an opportunity that the Villa do? Well, do you think Villa's European places, football next season does depend maybe on the FA Cup, given where you are in the league and the clubs around you? But that being said, you're only 4 points behind Chelsea in 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, it is true. Yeah, we're only 4 points behind Chelsea, but we do have the most difficult run of form. Well, not run of form. Next games to do pretty much, because that's pretty much. I did as I told you before. I did a list, and I just just check at what games do we have kind of wise. I mean, the easiest one will be Southampton, which will be in 3 weeks' time. But the most difficult one that we have to do is Man City, which is not much, but we do have PSG to play. Obviously, we have the FA Cup, and then we have pretty much 4 other teams around us. So in that, we have Newcastle, we have Forest, we have Fulham, we have Brighton. Literally anyone top 10 out of Southampton is that we have to play. And United, I forgot, but I'm not really counting United. That's a difficult game and the voice. So it does put a lot of things over there because we are literally playing against everyone who is fighting for those positions next to us. It's not like, oh yeah, we're talking about Brentford who is in 15, 16. No, they're actually just behind us by 3 points. Just like, hey, we can still overtake you over here. Don't put your guard down. So it's going to be a difficult for the run kind of wise for the next few games, and it's going to be heavily based either in the FA Cup or the Champions League, pretty much. Yeah.
Who on your list has the easiest run of fixtures then? Out of
So the easiest will be Man City. Man City with the easiest run of form, pretty much. We're talking about that they're majorly going to be playing lower league, or lower teams, so they'll be closest to the relegation zone in all drastic points. I'll just show a little bit of an image over here. So, I mean, it'll be look terrible, but as you can just see, all the points over here, 3 teams. Yeah. So, category number 1 is 5. Is the bottom 5. 4 is the top 5. So you can see all the teams going lower and lower. I added categories of close to points and extra games. The easiest teams they have to play, and then obviously the teams which have the easiest to hardest run of forms. But yeah, I look like a lunatic looking at the photo back again. It is one of those things that you have to consider quite a lot because Chelsea does have the second strongest run of form. Sorry, hardest run of form, and it's just like they can lose it in any moment because we're talking about they're playing against all the other teams next to them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, when you look at the fixtures this week, then so Fulham are playing Arsenal away, and again, if you're probably being honest, that's probably going to be a win for Arsenal. So that maybe takes points of Fulham. Then Forest against United. Gabe, you can give into this one if you want to, but
it's in God's hands.
Don't really know what to say about that one, but Forest have been a very difficult away fixture for many teams this season. Bournemouth against Ipswich, probably looking like a Bournemouth win. And then I think the big one there is for you, Brighton versus Aston Villa. And like you just mentioned, the fixtures are quite tight for Villa this season. And Unai Emery's away record, Villa's away record this season, I think, is fair to say has been rubbish. It's not been very good.
It's not been the greatest.
Brighton, do you think a win there at the Amex would kind of just kickstart this run into the end of the season? Because Brighton aren't an easy team to face either. They've just been knocked out the FA Cup on penalties, so they'll probably be a bit hurt by that, and they'll probably be looking for European football now to not say that they necessarily deserve it over other teams, but they probably will feel that they deserve European football. They're 2 points ahead of you. If they win that, then they're 3 points ahead, and then that probably just creates a little bit of a gap for Villa, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does pretty much. If we definitely win at the Amex, I think it'll just push the boys a lot harder because it'll be like, well, we just won at the Amex over here. Yes, they've been kicked out of the FA Cup, but they literally have to play every single game here in the Premier League in order to get those European spots. They cannot afford to lose those games. So yeah.
Gabe, if you're looking at this European table, are you just so annoyed that Manchester United haven't been decent this season?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the teams that are around there, we'd traditionally call these teams like mid-table.
Yeah.
If we were being a pretentious Big Six supporter. But I think there's so much quality in the Premier League now that these teams it's so tight getting to the top that some teams just have to settle being mid-table when their overall quality they probably should be playing in Europe. But yeah, I mean, I'd be frustrated anyway if we were 13th, regardless of who's in the European spots. But what I'm finding interesting is that there's so many variables that are going to play a part in which spots actually get you into which competition. So, for example, when United win the Europa League, like that'll be a Champions League spot for Manchester United,
Yeah.
and
Or
then
Tottenham.
or Tottenham, yeah. And then the FA Cup as well. If City win the FA Cup and then get into Champions League spot, then obviously that place goes to that extra European spot goes into the Premier League table. But let's say if Palace win the FA Cup, then they take that Europa League spot. It means there's less spots in the table. That's what I'm finding really interesting about it. And I think it's pretty much guaranteed that England gets the Champions League spot for 5th in the Premier League as well.
I think it's all but confirmed.
Yeah. I think it's something crazy, like everyone has to lose every single match or something to not get it. So then that brings it down again. So then you've got 6th, 7th, 8th, which could all potentially be European spots. But as for predicting a team who's going to do it, I mean, it's so tight. I mean, you're looking 5th to 10th. There's 4 points between Bournemouth and Manchester City. So it's too tight to predict at this season. At this point of the season, we've got 9 games to go as well for most teams, about 9 or 10 games to go. Obviously, there are teams like Manchester City who you'd sort of be a fool to bet against. You'd say not getting into the Champions League, like we mentioned earlier, they do tend to go on crazy runs at form at this point of the season. So they would probably be your favourites to get into the Champions League spot, and well, they're in 5th right now, so they are currently in that Champions League spot. Forest don't look like they're slowing down. We do have a lot of games to go, but right now they're looking pretty comfortable. So I think most of it really, I would say I think Forest, Chelsea, City look quite comfortable there. But again, and it could change. It's on a knife edge. It could change next week. That could all change.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you just said there. When you look at City's fixtures coming up to the end of the season, you've got Leicester at home, but then Manchester United away on the 6th of April. And yes, United haven't been very good the past couple of seasons, but you have been very good against City at home.
Yeah,
do you think that could play into it?
Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much any big side since we've played with Amorim or big side like Arsenal, Liverpool, City, we've tended to change the way we play. We sort of become more compact. We sort of become less like an Amorim team, because I think Amorim is quite concerned that these are the games that you sort of need to get results in to keep the fans on side. You can't really risk getting battered like Ten Hag would. And he sort of realizes that these are the games you can't get humiliated in these ones. So yeah, I would. I mean, City at home, for a United fan, I think it's always a game that you have to feel confident in. Your local rivals, you have to feel confident that you're going to get a result against them, and we do quite a lot of the time. We do get a result against City quite a lot of the time at home. So yeah, I mean, they could easily slip up at Old Trafford. It wouldn't be a surprise to anyone at all, I think, if that would happen. Then you do look at City's other fixtures like Southampton. I think Wolves they've got in there as well. I think Leicester, I think they played them before us. Yeah, you would fancy City winning most of their remaining fixtures, and I think they will. I don't think it's I don't think they'll miss out on the Champions League spots.
Yeah, if you look at maybe another hard fixture, probably be Everton away, just because of Everton being a difficult team to face most of the time. But yeah, you're not wrong. They have decent fixtures, and then they've got Bournemouth and Fulham to end the season, and by that point, both of those sides could actually just be out of European contention altogether and not really playing for anything. If it's difficult to say, like you say, because I think most of the teams are inconsistent. City have the best run of fixtures before the end of the season. If you had to put a number that you think will get Champions League football, because are we convinced Chelsea's going to get it as well? They've been pretty poor, I think is fair to say. Do you think, do we think Chelsea might slip out there and Newcastle jump in? Declan, Gabe, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, see, it's really difficult to predict this Chelsea moment because I was doubting it at the start. It went great, and then it came back to I was thinking of what Chelsea would look like, and it would like my predictions to actually become true. It just feels weird when they are, and it's just like the whole system of playing that Maresca introduced at Chelsea is just kind of flipped to the other side. And as a run form is the second hardest. Sorry, run form the next few games is the second hardest. It'll be difficult for them to keep it up kind of wise, really. And they're only 49 points if I'm not wrong again.
Yeah, 49.
49 points. Now, that's not been the usual amount of points that you need to get, obviously, at European games. But I think in this case scenario, the minimum you need will be in the Champions League stages to get is probably 62 points, I'll say. That you need a minimum of 62 points in order to enter that. Because, again, City are close. Newcastle are close behind you. Brighton, Fulham, Villa. They're literally close enough to you to get there and actually leapfrog you. And now for the other stages like Europa League and Conference League, I think you need a minimum of 40, 50 points between those two kind of ways to actually get those places. It is almost of the teams already in 40. It's just kind of wise that you might actually just see them just get draws or just losing and then just actually get in the European places anyway.
Yeah, would you agree with that? That potentially if you're maybe Newcastle and Brighton, I think other teams, just because they're closer to Chelsea, if they were to get 4 wins out of their remaining 10 and 9 respectively, and then maybe a couple of draws in there, 62 to 65, does that get Champions League football this season?
I think possibly, yeah. I think that was quite similar last season. I think it was 66. I don't know if Villa got it on.
Yeah, very much.
I can check right here. I think it was 66 anyway, something like that, which got Champions League football. So that was where I was thinking, sort of around 65 points would get European football. I was just checking Chelsea's run of fixtures at the end of the season, and you weren't lying. I think they're going to struggle. Liverpool, Newcastle, United, and Forest as their last 4 games is incredibly tough. But then I reckon if you look through all the other teams, that everyone's going to have like a few difficult fixtures here. So I imagine we'll sort of see like teams taking points off one and then dropping points there. We've already seen that quite a lot this season. I think there was like a funny little cycle going around with like Bournemouth, Forest, Brighton, and like Newcastle, who all seem to like take points off each other, which has been like the constant theme, which has been the constant theme throughout this season. So I think like when we talk about difficulty in terms of fixtures, it's really hard to gauge because at some point, or for a lot of these teams, that all their fixtures will be just as difficult as each other's. But yeah, in terms of 60, if I was a Nottingham Forest fan and you got past 62, 63 points, I'd be feeling pretty comfortable that would get Champions League, and that's only about that's about 3 wins for Forest in their last 9 games would get them Champions League. So I think they should be feeling pretty confident. But it's just all about how they deal with the pressure going into this business end of the season.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think any of us would have had Forest being the most comfortable team to get European football this season out of the teams we've just mentioned. But yeah, you're not wrong on 54 points. With the season they've had, I think they'll back themselves to win at least 3 games. And if that gets them to 63, and just draw maybe 2 or 3 other games, and that gets them up to 66. That should be doable for them, really. I think they do have Chris Wood injured for another couple of weeks, though, which could potentially slip them up. But when you look at their fixtures, maybe Forest this weekend, Villa, Everton, Tottenham, by the time Chris Wood comes back, maybe they're looking at that and they've lost 2 of them.
Yeah,
And
I know Chris Wood he's been the star striker this season, but they've got goals in that team in other places. They've got Hudson-Odoi cropping up. They've got Alanga cropping up with them. Gibbs White will contribute as well. So and Awoniyi is a good enough standing, I would say. I mean, I think it was just last season that I was putting him as one of the most promising strikers, like outside of the big 6 teams and in the Premier League. So I think they'll be comfortable enough to lose Chris Wood if it's not for too long, if it's not until the end of the season, which I don't think it will be. I'm not sure the extent of his injury. I'm not sure if you seen what is actually how long he's out for, or
it was only mid-April, the one I saw.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, he'll be coming back for like the last 4 or 5 games of the season potentially. So I mean, that's something to bear in mind for a Forest fan. And with their matches, I think their home playing games at home will really help them. They've made the City Ground a fortress this season, and I think as we get close to the end of the season, the fans they'll be getting that place rocking every single time teams come there. So I think that will give Forest a lot of confidence going into the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. We're coming up to around 37 minutes or so I think we'll leave it there. And unfortunately, if you're looking for answers on who's going to be in the Champions League this season, I think our collective answer is we don't know.
We don't know. It's not United.
We will never know.
Well, yeah, we know it's not going to be United or Spurs. So go away with that wisdom of knowledge. We will be back on Wednesday, I think it is, with the Masters, the golf taking place this week. So if you're into golf, look forward to that. If you're an F1 fan, it's a little bit of a week ago now, but we recorded our review of the Chinese Grand Prix, which also included Liam Lawson and a Yuki Tsunoda debate, which obviously was made official a couple of days ago as Tsunoda replacing Lawson in that Red Bull seat. So feel free to check that out on your screen right now as well. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Declan and Gabe for joining me today. And hopefully we'll see you soon and not in another 3 months' time. But for now, thank you for listening and goodbye.